About this interesting story that caught our attention? A secession movement in Maryland is now getting national attention. It is led by a group that is known as the Western Maryland Initiative, whose members say that they're extremely frustrated with their state's liberal government. So listen to how their founder describes it.
You vote them in and they turn around and do the opposite. They don't do what they say they're going to do, so why waste your time voting?
They're not going to listen or take our needs into consideration and govern in a way that's more in accordance with how we wish to be governed. We are seeking an amicable divorce.
How about that? So Western Maryland's made up of 5 counties whose residents largely vote Republican, but they say they feel underrepresented at the state capitol, which is run by a Democratic governor and legislature. Here now is the man driving that secession movement, Scott Strelznick. Scott, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Martha.
You know, I mean, on the face of it, people would look at that and say, well, you know, it's too bad. We have elections. Whoever gets the most votes wins that election. And the majority of the people have asked them to govern, and that's what they're doing.
In some sort of way, that could be correct. However, the real issue that we see in this state, I think the primary issue, is the fact that the state has been so badly gerrymandered. There are now 4 jurisdictions that make up the state Senate in Maryland. So 25 of the 47 state senators come from these jurisdictions. Through the normal electoral process, we can't even change that. So we don't feel that we're being represented there. Our needs aren't taken into account, and we simply believe our differences are irreconcilable. Therefore, we are seeking an amicable divorce.
All right, so how are you going about it, and how likely are you to succeed? Because as I said, a lot of other states appear to be watching your model.
Well, we aren't the only state. There are at least 4, if not 6, possibly going on now. But right now we're in what I call phase 1, where we're trying to gauge and assess the popular support for this initiative. So if we have the popular support from the people and we also have the backing from the business community, we're going to move this effort forward. In the end, the process to erect or form a new state out of an existing state is completely legal and constitutional. It's an uphill battle, no doubt, but we need approval from the Maryland State Legislature, and then once we have that approval, we would then go to the U.S. Congress and get their approval. And
you're saying that it is, according to your understanding of it, constitutional to make this attempt and to have a vote, and if it passes, then you would be your own state?
That is correct. So Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution specifically lays out the process for which you need to erect a new state. This has been done 6 or 7 times in the history of the United States. Maine separated from Massachusetts, Vermont from New York, West Virginia from Virginia, Kentucky from Virginia, North Carolina from Tennessee, etc.
Very interesting. So what are your main, what are your gripes? What are the things that you really feel are an injustice to the people that live in your part of the state?
Well, first, we don't feel that we have proper representation. So because the gerrymandering is so bad, it is impossible through normal electoral processes to really change what happens in Annapolis. So the playing field is rigged, the rules are rigged, and it's their referees. So we are frustrated with that. Secondly, I would say the last decade or so of taxes, there have been dozens and dozens upon tax increases. The craziest one that just passed this last legislative session was a rain tax. So if a drop of rain hits my grass, it's fine, but if it hits 1 inch to the left, the state has determined that's a pollutant and they need to tax me for it. And what's even more unfair about that is they only decided to do that institute that tax against the 10 largest jurisdictions. The other 14, they figured, oh, we're not going to bother taxing them. So there's no equal protection of the laws either. And then the last straw, the straw that broke the proverbial back of the camel, is Senate Bill 281, which was the state's restrictive gun control legislation. That was the last straw where lots of people really started talking about, we don't have representative government, we are taxed, money is siphoned off, sent to other projects in other parts of the states, and we simply wish to establish a new political society, and that's all states are political societies, that it better comports with our views and how we wish to be governed. And that's simply what we're looking for.
Very, very interesting. So I have to ask you before I let you go, if you had a state, what would you name it?
That's a good question. The obvious one is Western Maryland. Some interesting ones people have suggested. One is Antietam. Another is called Augusta because that's what the area was surveyed and named back in the 1700s. But I think we'd probably have a little contest or something and let people decide what they think the state name should be.
We have to rearrange, it'd be got to make a whole lot of new puzzles of maps of the United States for all the school kids,
That's okay. Well, we didn't always have 50 states, Martha. Remember that.
This is true.
So, okay.
Scott, thank you very much. Scott Strelznick. Very interesting.
Great. Thank
we'll
you,
be
Martha.
watching to see how you make out with it. Thank you, sir.